Hello, Central Oregon. It's another beautiful day here in Central Oregon. I'm Fred Johnson, and you're listening to the Real Estate Revolution. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Boy, what a remarkable day. As you look out, it's hard to say that it's still January because it feels so much like spring. The mountains are beautiful, and we are just absolutely so blessed to live here in Central Oregon. So today's show, one of our objectives here at the show is to try to bring you real estate information that you can use. And, of course, we're always reaching out and looking for your input, your questions. You can always call us on the property line here at 541-388-1110. And as a matter of fact, today, if anyone chooses to participate in the show, I might have some inducements or things here that might be to your benefit. So please remember that number, 541-388-1110. So today, what the topic is going to be when we get to it is getting ready to sell your home. The last couple of weeks, last week, many of you may remember, we had Kevin Pangle in from Evergreen Home Loans. He shared with us a number of the different things that have impacted the lending market and why this may be a good time from a lending perspective to take a look at it. And the data and the statistics this week show that a number of people, not only to purchase homes, are stepping forward, but there's also a big turnaround in the refinance market. And the majority of the lenders that I chatted with this week shared with me that a good number of their applications have actually been refinances of people that are refinancing their existing loans. So for those of you that may have a rate higher than 5% or higher, this may be a good time for you to take a look and see if there's maybe a little bit of money for you to be saved. One of the statistics I got this week, which was really quite interesting, I'll go into in a minute here, was sort of the impact of what interest rates can have over the long-term hold of the loan. And even though they were based on a 30-year hold, they were quite astounding numbers. Speaking of numbers, we're getting off to a pretty good start this year. It appears that there's a number of people that are interested. They're back in the market. The phones are busy. The real estate agents are out showing properties. A good number of the properties came on the market this week. And so one of the things that I did was just sort of took an overall comparison to this time last year to see how those numbers were working and what was going on as far as total numbers of sales, total number of properties that are on the market. And I seriously doubt you're sitting there with a pencil or pen, but they were consistent not only in Bend but throughout Deschutes County. In Deschutes County, where we currently have 1,525 listings, at this time last year we had almost 1,700 listings. So there was a little bit more inventory at this time of the year. However, our sales are actually up just a little bit, where last year for this last month we had 209 sales. This year we have 250 sales. So between the two, you see that this might be a good year to give some consideration if you have been considering selling your home, to take a look at that, because if we're having more transactions and there's a little bit less inventory, and as I shared with you last week, a good percentage of that inventory that's available is new construction. So if you have an existing home that maybe has a little bit of elbow room or has something with it, this might be a good time to bring that property forward. And those same numbers were consistent also in the Bend proper area. In Bend, we have 681 listings, as opposed to this time last year there were 714. Really not a large swing there. But the difference in sales over the last month really was up by 10%. It went from 115 last year to 129 this year. Really, all that tells us as we're looking at the market and we're going forward is that, yes, in fact, 2015, there are going to be some people not only moving into the area, obviously we've discussed that in weeks past, but also the people that are here in town that are either moving to upsize, downsize, or accommodate their family, whatever their personal needs may be. So I wanted to share that with you. Before we get on to going through our checklist of homes, one, I want to encourage everybody again, please, if you have any questions, if you're giving some consideration to marketing your property this year, if I bring up an issue that I'm not particularly clear on, then please feel free to call the property line at 388-1110. I wanted to do a shout out today too. This last week, the Central Oregon Association, Central Oregon Builders Association, named not only their Realtor of the Year, but they named 29 awards. And one of the things that I liked about the award and the process is it was not only for their industry accomplishments within the real estate industry, but also with their civic activity. And so part of my shout out today is for the Central Oregon Builders Association Realtor of the Year, who is Pat Keskard. And in addition to obviously being a remarkable commercial broker with Compass Commercial, he's also a member of the Rotary, has worked with the City of Bend in the Neighborhood Stabilization Program. He's worked with the Central Oregon Veterans Outreach for low-income and disabled veterans. And he's also been the part of the Central Area Plan for Multimodal Committee, which multimodal transportation is about what our city will look like for pedestrians, bicycles, roads, and some of those different things. And so a shout out to you. Congratulations, Pat, for a job well done and for everything that you give back to our community. As we're looking here a little bit, we talked about a couple of things that may be impacting our market just a little bit. And one of the things that was really quite notable this week that came out in the news was that we have had quite a dramatic drop in foreclosures in Deschutes County. And the figures that they're giving is that there's been a 58% reduction in the number of foreclosures. By that, they meant that in 2013 there were 942, and in 2014 there were only 391. It's really quite a change, and there's been some legislative issues, and I really won't go into any great for the difference of a judicial foreclosure, and we see a great drop in that. But really, the bottom line on the filings and that is that because of the appreciation and the values coming back into our market, fewer properties are in a distressed situation. And it makes it much easier for the market to absorb those properties or refinance them to be able to move forward. So what that lends to, again, is just that we do have a very healthy market here in Bend. We have an awful lot of impact with people moving into the area. Obviously, a number of people want to live here. There's employment opportunities and a number of things happening. So, again, if you're considering selling your property, we'll go through some of those details and some of those points that we might want to take a look at today. Another one is mortgage applications have surged as well, and I shared that with you that a good portion of that is the refinance market, but yet the purchase application volume is almost up 24%, which shows the strongest application growth for early in the year since September of 2013. So that too is a pretty good indicator that we may be moving in a good direction for a good healthy market here. And speaking of lenders and our discussion that we had last week, on the national average, it says that only 1 out of 4 purchasers talk to more than one mortgage broker. And oftentimes, just like as we've discussed in the past, selecting your real estate broker, it may be to your advantage to talk to more than one broker to not only find out their programs. Obviously, we're always concerned with the fees and the interest rate and some of the different associated things, but also the compatibility that you may have with the broker. Do they share your same values? Do they have your best interest in mind? Do they seem to be current in the market, knowing what's happening? Are they doing some volume? As I always say, and it may be a bit trite, but you really can't fake experience. Either someone has experience and they've been doing this for a while and they can represent you very well, or maybe they don't have that experience, but you as the customer should know that going in. It's very, very important to the long term because, after all, your home is your home and you're going to probably own it for a fair amount of time. The other thing that I promised you here just a moment ago was on interest rates and what effect that could have. We are really at a time, and I noticed that this last week when Kevin was with us, he didn't really want to quote any rates because obviously it's all dependent upon your credit scores, and there's a number of different things that come into play. But maybe when we come back, we'll talk about the effect that the interest rates would have and what the hold cost would be. Again, this is the Real Estate Revolution. I am Fred Johnson. Our phone number here is 541-388-1110. And please, I encourage you to give a call if there's any questions that you may have or anything that we may want to talk about. And until then, I'll see you after the break. Hello, Central Oregon, and welcome back. I'm Fred Johnson. You're with the Real Estate Revolution. I'm here at our station at the corner of 18th and Empire, and it's another beautiful day. We must be talking about something, right? Because while I was sitting here on the break, I noted that there were a couple of people moving, one moving east, one moving west with their pickup trucks loaded, and people are moving around. So as much as we'd like to think that people wait until spring, apparently the end of January, which, by the way, go Seahawks. I guess we're at the Super Bowl this weekend, is a good time to be moving. So what we're talking about today is getting your home ready to sell, and what that would entail. And any real estate broker that you may be working with generally has a list, kind of a home seller's checklist, if you will, of a number of items to go through. And what I'll do is I'll brief with that, and then maybe give you some inside tips as to go into just a little bit more depth in some of those, because I think that a fair number of us have some preconceptions about what has value and what doesn't have value, and what's comfortable to others and what isn't comfortable to others. And it's kind of nice to have a third party or an unbiased eye sort of share some of those points with you. Again, our cell phone number, our number here is 541-388-1110. I'd encourage you to call in if there's any of the issues here that you'd like to talk about in greater detail. And as I expressed with you earlier, there may be some incentive for you to call in that hopefully you will enjoy. Before the break, one of the things that I had mentioned, and I won't go into this in really, really great detail, but I found it quite interesting. And what they were talking about is the fluctuation of interest rates. And in this one particular case, basically what they were talking about was the holding expense of a $250,000 loan with a mere quarter of a point change in interest. And what that meant by the time it went from 3.75 to 4% over the life of the loan was a $5,000 interest expense, which, $5,000 over 30 years may not seem like that much, but then to take it to 4.1%, that moved to $18,076. So oftentimes when we're looking at loans and we're looking at the purchase value, how much difference it makes per month, we don't really do the math and extend it out for the length of the holding time, where we may hold if we stay there for the entire life. We buy our little family ranch and we're going to stay there forever, then it makes a considerable difference. But really anything over 5 years time in the holding expense of a property, interest rate is a real key component. And even more important is your purchase value. It would move the sales price fairly dramatically as there's a fluctuation of interest. So I would strongly encourage anybody who is considering refinancing, purchasing, doing something right now with the interest rates and some of the incentive programs that are going on, it's certainly worth your time to at least explore the options that are out there. So moving forward today, we're going to go ahead and get started on our topic, which is, if you're planning to sell your home, what does the homeowner's checklist look like? What are some of the things that we may want to consider? And as I said, what I'm going to do is kind of go through this homeowner's checklist here. And if anybody would like to have a copy of this, either consult your real estate professional or feel free to contact me through my website, through the contact, and just request it, and I'd be more than glad to email it back to you. And again, that's at askfredjohnson.com. You can just send an email, go to the contact place there. There's a portion where you can ask a question or give me some insights as to who you would like to hear interviewed or topics you would like to hear discussed on the show, and we'll be more than glad to get back to you. So, of course, right at the top is clean everything. Cleanliness is a signal to the buyer that a property is well maintained. And, even if it's just really nothing more than raking the entire yard to clean up the outside and then trying to clean as much as you can, a messy and dirty house causes a prospective buyer to notice every flaw. They start to look for everything that may be wrong. And again, I'm just going to go through this list and go into some of these details a little bit deeper. Uncluttering your home. Have a garage sale. Empty the closets. Donate some of the stuff you can't sell. The fewer items you have around your home, the roomier the home feels. And one of the things that we're trying to do when we get someone to come into the home and to purchase it is we want them to be able to envision themselves living in the house. We want to envision them being able to see where their furniture might go. And sometimes if we have too much of our stuff there, they get so caught up with looking at everything else that they don't really pay much attention to the house. Another one is to light up your home. Right next to location, when people are out looking for a potential home, they want it in a specific area, they want that. The very next thing that comes up almost every time is light and bright. We really like our home to be light and bright. And some of us get accustomed to in the second room and down the hall and that sort of leaving curtains and blinds drawn and not allowing the outdoor light to come in. And one of the other things that I think is pretty important when you're selling a property is the light bulbs themselves. When we're living in a house, obviously with the new light bulbs, they take a little bit while to warm up, but they don't use near as much electricity, and we're really concerned with that. However, when someone's coming to take a look at your home, and they may only be in your home for a few moments, the time that it takes to turn on the light in a cool house and allow the light to come to full illumination may be just enough to sort of set it that the house is dark. Maybe it's dark and dingy is a term that's used an awful lot. And, maybe particularly in some of those areas to go ahead and incur the short-term electrical expense and buy some 7,500 watt bulbs and put them in place so that when someone comes in and hits that light switch, the room just snaps. It just gets light. It's clean. It just has that perception of feeling larger and cleaner and well maintained. Another item is to let some fresh air in. Sometimes when we have cooking orders, pet orders, we don't really encounter too many people that still smoke in their homes, but some of those orders, you want to have the property not only light, clear of debris, but also it'd be really nice if it smelled well. In the number of years that I've been in, obviously, there's been a number of cat houses that I've been into where they've had multiple cats, and you can smell the cat box at the front door. And I can tell you from personal experience, that's a real deterrent to someone wanting to look any further. I've had actually some quite humorous experiences with reference to that. Another thing too is to go through, particularly every single one of us has a little bit of a honey-do list. And we have some of those little things that are broken, they're a little bit of an eyesore. We really hope to get around to them one day. But, those items, particularly if they're not very expensive, really do deserve some attention. And to take the time to give them some attention, it really, really helps. And that includes your plumbing, your electrical switches, squeaky floorboards, antennas, any of that sort of thing that is a pretty minor fix, but you can take the time and make that happen. Send the pets away, kind of minimize the kids a little bit. Paint, nothing improves a property's perception of cleanliness more than clean walls and the smell of fresh paint. I think everybody's lured to fresh paint just a little bit. And again, I have this checklist. After the break, we'll come back and we'll get a little bit more specific onto diving into some of these details, and hopefully you'll find something that's of value in what we're offering today. Hello, this is Fred. I'm back, and you are with the Real Estate Revolution. And thank you so much for tuning in today. Hopefully I'm getting better out there with dealing with my electronic board here. I didn't have the volume turned up, so that's the reason why the transition was a little choppy last time. Again, you're with the Real Estate Revolution. I am Fred Johnson. Our phone number here at the station, 541-388-1110. Well, I guess I'm going to have to let the cat out of the bag. If people call in today and participate, I have a exterior car wash for Red Carpet Car Wash. And I'd be more than glad to share that with one of our listeners that might want to call in. Again, our number is 541-388-1110. So what we've been talking about so far today is trying to get your property ready for market, some of the things that you may want to consider. A couple of weeks ago, we chatted about the interview process of interviewing a real estate professional to be able to help you with that, some of the things that you may be looking for, and some of the questions that you may want to ask to make certain that that agent may be the right person for you. Look here. I think somebody wants to have their car washed today. Let's see what we've got going. Hello? Hello?
It's Kathy.
Kathy, how are you today?
I'm delightful. I'm inside working on my year-end stuff. How about you?
Oh, perfect. Thanks so much for calling in. I guess that car wash was just enough to push you off the dime.
It was.
Well, which is great. I really appreciate your input. It's people like you that listen to the show, and if we're going to try to get value out there in the community, we need your input to know what you'd like to hear and what kind of questions you may have. Did you have a question for us today? You just wanted to call and say hi.
Yes, I did.
Oh, well, thank you so much for the words of encouragement, and I'll get your car wash token here at the station at 18th and Empire, and you can swing by and pick it up anytime.
Okay. Thank you.
No questions?
No, I just turned it on. I thought, I got to see what my friend Fred is sounding like.
Well.
And so I didn't have any questions yet.
Well, I flubbed up a little bit on my transition. On my last transition, I turned it on, but then I didn't have the volume up, so I sat there waiting for the music to start, and it didn't start. But I'm getting better. And I'm really having a good time, and I'm really thankful to be here.
Well, I'm thankful that you are there.
Well, Kathy, thanks so much for calling in today, and I look forward to talking to you real soon.
Okay, you take care, Fred.
Bye now.
Okay, bye.
Well, there you go. There wasn't really much for everybody else, but we're having fun. And so today we're talking about buying your house and or about selling your house, excuse me. And interviewing for that real estate broker, I think, is a very, very key component. But I'm going to introduce something here that will seem a little awkward, and it's a little uncomfortable, but it was printed in the HGTV network about how to sell your home, and they had the top 10. They actually called them their selling secrets, and it started with selling secret number 10, which is pricing it right. I have to give a little backstory on this, and the backstory on this is that the internet has really had a profound impact on how buyers shop. Buyers shop and have access to more information than they have ever had previously. And that's not only affected the real estate business, it's affected the automobile business, it's affected the travel industry. It's affected a number of things, but basically the power of knowledge and information is now in everybody's hands. So when someone actually comes to a salesperson or goes to the car lot, or I don't even know if there's many travel agencies around any longer, but they're pretty well informed by the time that they arrive as to where value should be, what current inventory is currently available, maybe even some of the comparative sales that have happened in the past. And so what that means is that the marketing effort needs to be tailored a little bit more to accommodate the impact of the internet. And by that, what I mean is that there was a time where you could actually draw an activity graph based on the time on market, that when a property would come on the market, it would take it a little while to gain some traction, for people to be able to see it, for the activity level to sort of come up. And sometimes that opening window would be 10 days to 2 weeks in time before potentially everybody that was in the immediate area knew about the available property, was able to give it some consideration and maybe set up an appointment. Now that timeline is much, much shorter. We now have not only our local MLS, but we also have all of and most brokerages syndicate with all of the other, the Trulias, the Zillows, the Realtor.com. There's a number of different aggregated websites that are out there. And so how you put the property on the market, how you time the marketing of the property, and how you allow the market to establish itself. One of the things that we all give a fair amount of lip service to, which is the term called market value. And by definition, those of us that are in the real estate world are given a loose definition that real market value is what a ready, willing, and able payer or ready, willing, and able buyer will pay a ready, willing, and able seller without undue duress. Now, in a perfect world, that's great, and that really sounds good. But as the internet has come to impact how transactions happen, the way that we establish market value is really how the property is marketed so that we can expose it to as many potential purchasers as possible, so that then and only then can we really find what real market value is, because we have to have a number of potential purchasers show up to be able to arrive at that value. Now, if that value is above or below your listing price, that is the way that you will discover whether you are at market value or not, because again, it's what a ready, willing, and able buyer will pay a ready, willing, and able seller. So if you have done it correctly and have the property marketed correctly to where you're exposing it to as many potential purchasers as possible, and then you grant them a response time, then and only then can you establish what the market value is and what the market is prepared to support for your property. So what does all that mean? Well, what all that means is that where we used to be able to price properties high, know that the market was trending upward, and know that if we stayed on the market long enough, the trending upward value would run into our inflated price. We'd be able to find a potential purchaser and live happily ever after. What that means now is that people are sort of trained and conditioned to sit at the internet or sit at their portal, as we call it, and look at the new properties that come on the market. They respond instantly, and within that response, they want to see the property as soon as they can, and then that creates your exposure to the property. And if it doesn't meet their needs, they put it in the discard bin, and very rarely will they come back to it. So the modeling of putting the property out on the market and saying, well, I know we're $25,000 overpriced, but somebody will write us an offer. People just generally don't do that as much anymore. They're more conditioned to, obviously we came off, as I'd mentioned here earlier, the foreclosure market. Everybody wants a buy. And so they're not as inclined to move forward on an overpriced property. So what I'm going to explain here, excuse me for so much backdrop on this, but what I'm going to explain here in a few minutes about pricing it right actually alludes to finding value and possibly pricing it a little under that, and then allowing the market to sort of percolate and do its work. But, and we'll talk about for sale by owners too, but the prospect of, the way that we used to do things was go to the paper, buy an ad, get a for sale by owner packet, come home, stick a sign in our yard, and hope that somebody drives past our property and comes and pays us at market value or above, just really isn't as likely to happen as it may have sometime in markets past. So this time I'm going to try to do a little bit better job of making my break into the music as we move forward. You're listening to the Real Estate Revolution, and I'm Fred Johnson. Our phone number here is 541-388-1110, and I'll look forward to seeing you back here after the break. Hello, Central Oregon, and welcome back. I'm Fred Johnson. This is the Real Estate Revolution, and really appreciate you being with us on this beautiful spring day. I know it's a little early. It's still winter, but it sure looks an awful lot like spring, and I hope you get out there, get in to take a little walk along the river, and get out and have some fun. Again, I'm here at the station. Our number here, the property line is 541-388-1110. And what we're talking about today is getting your property ready to sell, ready to market your home. And right before the break, we were talking about pricing it right. Well, and what that means, and I offered some input as far as what the what the process may be in the marketing process. And I genuinely believe that now more than any other time, because of the amount of information and knowledge that sellers have. Sellers are, a term that we used to use was sophisticated. They're much more sophisticated in that there is a much greater process. Many years ago, I could do a real estate sales agreement on one 8.5 by 11 sheet. Well, obviously, those days are gone at this point in time, and it takes a considerable amount of effort to get the property sold. So let's see if we might have a call coming in here today. Hello, you're on the Real Estate Revolution. Who do I have here?
This is Todd.
Todd, how are you today?
I'm doing all right. How are you doing today, Fred?
I'm doing really good. Thanks for calling in.
Yeah, no problem. I love your show. I think this show is like a real asset to Central Oregon.
Well, Todd, I really appreciate hearing that. That's what we want to do, is try to get some unbiased information out there so that hopefully it's of value to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been listening to the time slot for quite a while. So.
Oh, perfect. So yes, Kip Lohr was doing it for the last 2.5 years.
Yep.
And Kip was gracious enough to have me come in as a co-anchor with him, and he's on assignment doing a couple of other things, and left me here to see if I can figure it out.
Oh, you're doing an awesome job, Fred.
Well, thank you. I need all the encouragement that I can get.
Yeah, definitely.
Did you have any input on our topic today, Todd?
Well, a little bit. My main question, Fred, is about manufactured homes. There's like tons of manufactured homes all over Bend, all over Redmond. They're scattered everywhere.
Sure.
And like we're trying to get ours. We own one.
Uh-huh.
We're trying to get ours ready for sale.
I see.
And I was just wondering, like, if you have to do a bunch of work to your house that's going to cost a lot of money that you basically have to borrow, and you take especially if you're planning on selling the house down the road, or in the near future, I should say, and you try to apply for a loan, it's like next to impossible to get a loan on a manufactured home.
Yes.
And I was just going to say, do you have any ideas or any, I don't know.
Well, the lending guidelines on manufacturers have changed pretty dramatically.
Yeah. And
I'll ask a couple of questions of you, and that'll give some background to it. One was the home built after 1978?
Yes, it was 1998.
Okay, 1988. So it's relatively new. On the foundation that it's on, is it a perimeter foundation that was done with an FHA approved contractor?
No, it's basically like on stands or
on pier and block. Okay,
piers. Yeah.
Now that is because it doesn't have a foundation and isn't strapped with hurricane strapping and all of that sort of thing. It's considered personal property. It's not considered a piece of the land, and so that's the reason why there's some difficulty in finding financing for it.
Yeah.
And that's there is not an abundance of available financing for manufactured homes, and obviously a mortgage lender would be a great place to go and start and see what your options are there. But you may also want to consult your commercial bank, because after all, it is actually the licensing of a manufactured home like that is actually handled through the Department of Motor Vehicles, of all things.
Yeah, I know.
It's sort of an interesting thing. But I guess the thing that I would caution is, as you have shared that you may want to do some improvements to get the property ready for sale.
Yes.
It's very difficult in most cases to get a dollar for dollar return, if you will.
Yeah.
If you're adding a bathroom or, buffing up the kitchen a little bit or something like that, you can get pretty close.
Yeah.
But if you spend money and you only get 75 cents back on the dollar plus pay interest on it, you're kind of going backwards.
I know it's not worth it. Yeah. Our problem is like we need things like things that need to be repaired. Like it needs a roof and it needs, a few things that need to be done.
Uh-huh.
I'm sure if a potential buyer were to even look at it right now, they would see that it needs a roof, and then that would, right away they would think in their mind, this just needs a bunch of work. So,
well, is it located on a piece of land somewhere here in Central Oregon?
Oh, yeah, we have half an acre. Yeah.
Well, then the value obviously is the land plus the improved or the the personal property that's on it.
Yeah.
I don't know what your current financing is, but there.
Well, we own it outright. We don't owe anything on it. So.
Well, then of course you always have the option to try to do a contract sale where you sell it on contract, and that's going to add an awful lot of flexibility not only to potential purchasers but also to you as well.
Yeah. And that's something like a real estate person could help you with, basically.
Sure, a real estate person or your attorney can help you with it. It's just a matter. Obviously, you want to, as I've been hinting at here all day, you want to expose the property to as many people as possible, and that's the way that you're going to get the best value for the property in the sale. Yeah. And then offering owner contract terms. Actually, right now, there are a number of people that had their credit blemished during the recession. They may have good, stable jobs, have continued to have good, stable jobs, but they just lost a house.
Yeah.
Those people could be a good purchaser, and then maybe they could come in and put a foundation under the property and be able to sell it at a later date.
Okay.
But,
right.
Todd, as you know, I'm kind of new with my telephone system here. What I need to do is to get back with you or have you get back with me. Maybe if you could email me at the AskFredJohnson.com in the contact section there and give me your contact information. Then I'll make sure that you're able to stop by the station here and get that car wash that I promised for you.
Awesome. Okay. Awesome, Fred.
It feels a lot like spring, so you might as well have a clean car.
Yeah, hopefully we're going to get some more snow, though, hopefully.
Well, let's hope. That'll be good for everything. Even the fire marshal likes that.
Yep.
Todd, thanks so much for the call in today. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you, Fred. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate your calling.
Okay.
Bye-bye now. Hello, folks. I'm back with you, and thank you. That was Todd. And, a lot of properties, and particularly manufactured homes, are one of those properties that, are the square peg into the round hole, if you will. And sometimes it takes a little bit of work. And again, that's where, someone that's experienced with that can help you navigate what that might look like. I did get the opportunity to get through my top 10 double top secret ways to price your home. And maybe we'll be able to get to that this next week. Again, I'd like to encourage each and every one of you as we're trying to get a little traction with our show, and we want to participate with our public and get information out there that you can use. Please give us a call, give us a chance, and the easiest way is the email address, which is AskFredJohnson.com. There's a contact section there, and you can write in your questions and hopes, and I'd be more than glad to help any way that I can. What else do I have here? I think that 8 seconds. I'm about ready to go, and thank you so much.